We went to the Yukon, the Arctic Ocean, and some great Alaska border towns in early fall of 2023. This is about what we learned in the hope that it helps you to plan your trip. We'll tell you where we found the best wildlife, scenery, campsites, and historical sites, and we'll cover road conditions and gas prices. First, a brief comment on road quality. The Icefields Parkway, the Alaska Highway, Klondike Highway, Haines Road, and the Yellowhead Highway are all modern two-lane highways that accommodate any size RV. But look out for frost heaves. They're pretty common. 3 of the highways on this trip take a little more care. I'm talking about the Dempster Highway, the Top of the World Highway, and the Cassiar Highway. The Dempster Highway is a 456-mile-long gravel road that connects the Klondike Highway near Dawson City to Inuvik. And after you go 90 more miles to Tuktoyaktuk on the Arctic Ocean, it becomes a roughly 1,100-mile round trip on mostly gravel road. It's open year-round except during river freeze-up and breakup, and can be a very challenging drive due to gigantic potholes, high-speed semi-trucks, and sloppy conditions when wet. They often advise you to take 2 spare tires due to the sharp rocks making up the road. But we relied on our 10-ply or grade E all-terrain tires and kept our speed down to reduce the impact of the huge potholes in some areas. It's also a good idea to slow down and pull way over when fast trucks are approaching or passing, because windshield chips or cracks are very common. We still got a couple of small chips. The Top of the World Highway is a 175-mile-long road that connects Dawson City in the Yukon to the Alaska Highway at the Tetlin Junction, and it goes through Chicken, Alaska. The highway is only open from June to early September. It's mostly chip sealed, but about 30 miles from Jackwade Junction to Chicken, Alaska is gravel and a little more challenging to drive. The Cassiar-Stewart Highway is remote and rugged, but these days it's nearly all paved except for a few kilometers. It is narrower and a little rougher than the Alcan, and sometimes there are no center stripes, but we saw RVs of all sizes on the Cassiar. Let's start with the scenery. As you can see, there were beautiful vistas nearly everywhere. But let's go straight to our own highly subjective do not miss list of the most gobsmacking scenery we saw. The Icefields Parkway is 144 miles of some of the best mountain scenery on the continent, roughly between Lake Louise and Jasper, Alberta. We saw amazing mountains and glaciers, turquoise lakes, incredible waterfalls, and wildlife. We enjoyed an inexpensive auto tour guide during this drive, which we'll link below. Tombstone Territorial Park on the Dempster Highway has stunning mountain vistas mixed with Arctic terrain and Arctic vegetation, and some great hiking. Kluane National Park lies along the Alaskan Highway in the Yukon Territory. It has gobsmacking scenery even from the highway. These mountains and glaciers border immense ice fields in the St. Elias Mountains. We found incredible glacier and mountain views, huge lakes, and one of our favorite free camping spots. A last-minute trip from Haines Junction to Haines took us through an amazing high mountain pass with stunning mountain and glacier views. We really enjoyed this drive. It was also a great diversion to see the Chilkoot Bears near Haines and then take the ferry to Skagway. But the high pass on the Haines Road sticks out in our mind. An out-of-the-way side trip and a long potholed road near Hyder, Alaska, found us camping on a ridge overlooking the Salmon Glacier, one of the longest road-accessible glaciers in Canada. The weather was overcast, but the view was still gobsmacking. So where can you expect to see wildlife? We saw the most on the Alcan between Stone Mountain Provincial Park and Muncho Lake in the northern Rockies. Stone sheep are a relative of the bighorn sheep. The other major areas with lots of accessible wildlife are where the salmon spawn, drawing both eagles and grizzly bears down to the streams. We found this at the Chilkoot Fish Counting Weir near Haines, Alaska, and the Wildlife Observation Site near Hyder, Alaska. A side trip to both of these spots were highlights for us. If you're interested in history, two routes are particularly historic. The Klondike Highway, which parallels the route to the Klondike Goldfields from Dia and Chilkoot Pass along the Yukon to Dawson City, and the Alaska Highway, built in 10 months in 1942 as part of the war effort. It runs between Dawson Creek, BC and Delta, Alaska. There are many interpretive signs for both routes. There's also much to learn about the First Nations at cultural centers in Teslin, Whitehorse, and Dawson City, as well as history of early fur trappers and explorers that we never learned about in school in the States. Did you know that Alexander Mackenzie reached the Pacific Ocean 11 years before Lewis and Clark started their trip? We stayed at 3 campgrounds, 2 free recreation sites, and 15 free wild camps. I won't identify most of the free camps because there are so many, but they were nearly all private, quiet, natural sites, often with a view. We use an amazing free app called iOverlander. It shows user-added free camps and campgrounds on an offline map that also shows your location. Here are example screen grabs showing the density of wild camps and campgrounds on portions of the Alcan, the Dempster, and the Cassiar. The little moon symbol is a wild camp. The tent is a campground. Here are our tips for using iOverlander to find great free campsites. When using iOverlander, avoid highway pullouts and highway noise by big hills if you can. Make sure comments on road quality sound doable for your rig. Look for sites with 2 or more backup spots nearby so you don't get shut out if one is taken. And arrive early before most people start looking so you can find a site. Pay attention to the month of any mosquito comments, as buggy sites in June and July are often bug-free by late August or September. And finally, our favorite tip, look in the app for review comments like, wow, or spectacular views, or this place is stunning. Here are our 3 favorite boondock spots where the reviews say something like, wow, or spectacular, or stunning. Number 1 is the Liard River Bank. This is a spectacular camp on the short cliff overlooking the Liard River. It is quiet, totally private, and feels like true wilderness. There is one other spot just like it nearby. Number 2, outside Kluane National Park. This camp is well off the highway and overlooks a beautiful valley with a stunning mountain view on the other side. A second camp 100 yards away has the same view. Then there are a few other backup spots on the road in, but without a view. This camp has special memories for us because it's where we saw the northern lights. Number 3 is the Salmon Glacier Overlook. This was one of several pullouts on a 26-mile gravel road with very little traffic, but it is very private and afforded a spectacular view overlooking the Salmon Glacier. There are several pullouts past the main overlook spot, so keep going. The weather was overcast and foggy for us at times, but it was still spectacular, and it is along the same road as the Fish Creek Wildlife Observation Site, of the U.S. Forest Service, where grizzlies often visit. Please note, all three of these spectacular sites may be a little difficult to get into with a large RV or trailer setup. We traveled over 6,000 miles and most camps were free, so our biggest expense was fuel. Gas in southern BC was similar to that in the western inland states, but then it climbed with latitude, as you can see in the green box in this chart. So just expect it to get higher as you go north, but cheaper in Alaska than Canada. We assume the Canadian dollar is worth 74 cents US in these graphs. Outliers below the box are cheaper than expected for their latitude, so be sure to gas up there and try to avoid the highest outlier we found along the Alcan highway. Of course, there's a lot of stations we didn't stop at, so use Gas Buddy or an app like that to find the best gas. We'll end with our favorites lists. Take them or leave them, they're just our opinion. Our favorite of the many waterfalls we saw were the powerful Athabasca Falls, the Smith River Falls by the Liard River, and Tangle Falls along the Icefields Parkway. Our favorite hikes, keeping in mind we're old people, were Beauty Creek Stanley Falls hike along the Icefields Parkway, the historic Chilkoot Trail near Dia, Alaska, and the Berg Trail at Mount Robeson Provincial Park. And our top 6 trip highlights, in no particular order, were Liard Hot Springs, Salmon Glacier, the Northern Lights, Chilkoot River Bears near Haines, Icefields Parkway, and the Arctic landscape from Tombstone to Tuktoyaktuk. And finally, the 3 quirkiest things we saw on our trip. Number 1, the biggest fly rod in the world in Houston, BC. Number 2, the sour toe. And number 3, the Chicken Alaska Saloon. We hope you find this helpful in planning your trip. Please let us know if we really missed something that other viewers would like to hear about. Thanks a lot.